Hi, welcome to the theater, cinema, and film production tutorial on the lab projects. In every module of the theater and film course, you will complete what's known as a lab project, which for most of the modules just involves watching about 30 minutes of a classic film and answering 6 questions about it. So in this tutorial, we are going to show you kind of how we expect you to go through those assignments, how to break down a question you're answering, how to locate the answer within the film, and then how to present a complete and well-written response. So let's get started. So when you get to the end of the module, the first page after the lessons is always going to be your review and critical thinking questions, which hopefully you've answered for module 1 at this point. The next page is always going to be the instructions for the lab project. And you can see here in this case, it's to watch the first half hour of Singin' in the Rain. And let's kind of go through some of the instructions that you see here on this page, which is page 108 in your lessons. You'll see right there where the arrow's pointing, there's always going to be a picture of a movie poster of the film you're supposed to watch, and you click on that to get the movie to play. You don't need to find this at the store, you don't need to purchase it, download it, it's built right into the course. Now, sometimes there's technical difficulties when you click on that movie poster, it doesn't always play. At the very top of the announcement page, the home page for the course, there is a link to install the program Silverlight. And that is the program that supports the videos. Make sure also not to be watching in Chrome. Google Chrome is fine for the rest of the parts of the course, but for some reason it will not support the videos. So make sure you download Silverlight. Make sure you're not using Chrome as your browser. If both those things still don't work and it won't play, give tech support a call. Okay, so if we look at this page a little more closely, we can see it gives specific directions for how to complete the assignment. It's always going to tell you exactly what portion of the film to watch. You can see it says here from the very beginning, minute 0 to 30 minutes and 50 seconds. It's always going to be right around a half hour for each module. And then you notice it says to complete the following questions. If we were to scroll down, you could see the top of number 1 there. There's going to be 5 more after that. And a couple things to notice, if you notice the underlining, full sentences, and to present the questions and answers. So they do want, just like with the review questions, they want you to copy and paste the questions and then to answer in complete sentences beneath each one. So here's a closer look at all the questions. As you can see, numbered 1 through 6. But if you look closely, you'll see that there are multiple questions for a lot of these. They aren't quick, abrupt, brief questions like some of your review questions at the end of the module. These are a little more detailed. They have different aspects of them, different parts of them. So we're going to look at the first one together. We're going to examine number 1 and walk through it together right now. Okay, so let's read number 1 together. Filmmakers must often establish information quickly in a film in order to give the audience context for the plot. In this film, the filmmaker establishes information about several of the main characters, including Lena and Don. What information do we as the audience learn about Don and Lena from time code 135 to 4 minutes of the film? How does the filmmaker give us this information? Discuss at least 2 different ways that the filmmaker gives the audience information about these characters. Okay, so there are a few things to look at here. There's different aspects to this question. First of all, the first part of the question is asking, what information do we as the audience learn about Don and Lena from, and they give the specific minutes to watch from the film. So what do we learn about the characters Don and Lena? Simple as that. Now, the problem comes in where students stop with that. They answer that and move on to number 2. But remember, that wasn't all the question asked. It next says, how does the filmmaker give us this information? Compare this, think about this like as opposed to a novel or a short story that has a narrator and can just inform us through that narrator what who the characters are, what their personalities are like. A movie doesn't always have a narrator and can't do that, and this one doesn't. So they want to know not only what do we learn about Don and Lena, but how do we learn that about Don and Lena? Now, those are the only parts to the question as far as what information we're supposed to provide. But notice now that specific instruction, discuss at least 2 different ways that the filmmaker gives us that information about Don and Lena. So not only Do we have to tell how we get the information? We have to tell at least two different ways. So, not just one method of communicating to the audience, but at least two. So, let's watch that portion of the film together to collect that information. And while watching, jot down some notes if you have paper, or at least make some mental notes regarding the things we're supposed to be looking for in this portion of the film.
This is Dora Bailey, ladies and gentlemen, talking to you from the front of the Chinese Theater in Hollywood. What a night, ladies and gentlemen. What a night. Every star in Hollywood's heaven is here to make Monumental Pictures premiere of The Royal Rascal, the outstanding event of 1927. Everyone is breathlessly awaiting the arrival of Lena Lamont and Don Lockwood. Oh, look who's arriving now. It's that famous sick girl of the screen, the darling of the flapper set, Zelda Sanders.
Zelda! Oh, Zelda!
You red-hot patch, J. Cumberland Spendrel III, that well-known eligible bachelor. Zelda's had so much unhappiness. I hope this time it's really love. And here comes that exotic star, Olga Nara. And her new husband, the Baron de la Bonet de la Toulon. They've been married 2 months already, but still as happy as newlyweds. Well, 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 it's Cosmo Brown. Cosmo is Don Lockwood's best friend. He plays the piano on the set for Don and Lena to get them into those romantic moods. Oh, folks, this is it. This is it. The stars of tonight's picture, those romantic lovers of the screen, Don Lockwood and Lena Lamont. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this gorgeous couple, it's no wonder they're a household name all over the world, like bacon and eggs. Lockwood and Lamont. Now you can tell me confidentially, are these rumors true that wedding bells are soon to ring for you and Lena?
Well, Lena and I have no statement to make at the present time. We're just good friends.
You've come a long way together, Don. Won't you tell us how it all happened?
Well, Lena and I have made a number of pictures together.
Oh, no, Don, I want your story from the beginning.
Well, Dora, not in front of all these people.
Don, the story of your success is an inspiration to young people all over the world. Please.
Well, to begin with, any story of my career would have to include my lifelong friend, Cosmo Brown. We were kids together, grew up together, worked together.
Yes?
Well, Dora, I've had one motto which I've always lived by. Dignity. Always dignity. This was instilled in me by Mom and Dad from the very beginning. They sent me to the finest schools, including dancing school. That's where I first met Cosmo. And with him, I used to perform for all of Mom and Dad's society friends.
So that's the part they wanted us to watch to answer this question. And going back and reviewing what it was we were looking for, what information do we learn about Don and Lena? Well, here's some notes you might have taken. And just a word about notes. You know, these questions are always going to be at the end of the module for every portion of every film you watch. Same with the review and critical thinking questions, they're always there. Word of advice, go before you start watching the movies, before you start reading a module, go to the end, get those questions, put them in a Word document, open them in a separate window, print them, have them in front of you so that you can take notes and answer questions as you go. So here's some notes you might have taken while watching this scene. We notice that Don and Lena are obviously famous. Specifically, they're movie stars. They seem to be well loved by the people. They have a new movie because they are at a red carpet premiere. And there's rumors they're getting married, but Don denies those and says, no, we're just good friends. So there's some notes you might have taken while watching the scene. But of course, we know that's not how we present our answer. We need this to be in a comprehensive, well-written response. And of course, we know those were complete sentences technically, but they were short and choppy. We want it to be a nice, fluid, well-written response. And we might weave those notes into something like this. In the opening scene of Singin' in the Rain, we learned that the characters of Don and Lena are famous movie stars who are well loved by the public. There are rumors that they are engaged to be married, but Don denies them, stating that they are just good friends. So you can see we took all those notes and put them together into a nice, well-written, almost kind of mini paragraph there. But we know that's not the end of our question. There was still that second part that we have to answer, so let's go back and look at that again. How does the filmmaker give us this information, and discuss at least two different ways that they do so? So here's some notes we might have taken on that. They're introduced and interviewed by the announcer. So that's the obvious one. They're introduced, they're announced, and then she goes on to interview Don. They arrive in a limousine at the red carpet for a movie premiere. That should be a clue right there. And the crowds are screaming with excitement at them. They're not throwing tomatoes, they're not heckling, they're clearly excited and thrilled to see both of them. So those are the ways that we kind of put the pieces together and figure out what we know about Don and Lena. Just like with the previous portion, though, we do want to now restate that in better sentence structure, more complete, coherent thoughts. So let's put that together now. We learn this information about them through a few different ways. Firstly, they arrive at a red carpet movie premiere in a limousine, greeted by crowds of adoring and screaming fans. As they arrive, there is an announcer who introduces them and proceeds to interview Don about his career and his relationship with Lena. So if we piece that all together, then it's going to look something like this. In the opening scene of Singin' in the Rain, we learn that the characters of Don and Lena are famous movie stars who are well loved by the public. There are rumors they are engaged to be married, but Don denies them, stating that they are just good friends. We learn this information about them through a few different ways. Firstly, they arrive at a red carpet movie premiere in a limousine, greeted by crowds of adoring and screaming fans. As they arrive, there is an announcer who introduces them and proceeds to interview Don about his career and his relationship with Lena. Now you may be a little alarmed, saying, "Wow, that is a long answer." Rather, it's a complete answer. These aren't things to rush, so you'll get in the habit of really answering in the detail, the sort of specific detail you need with the support that you draw from the film to completely respond to the question being asked. You'll get used to that, and it'll come more naturally. But we want to set this precedent from the start that that's an example of a thorough response. And let's just double check first of all on going back to our instructions. First, we were told to tell what information do we, as the audience, learn about Don and Lena. Did we provide that information? Yeah. How does the filmmaker give us this information? We did tell how we learned that, of course. And did we do so in at least two different ways? Yeah, actually, a few. So we've completely answered the question. This is a great response. And that's the sort of complete breakdown and examination of a question, deconstruction of a question, then full response to it that we expect when you're doing the lab projects. I hope this has been helpful, and as always, if you have any further questions, certainly ask your teacher and they'll be glad to help. Have a great day.